All right, so the people ask and you shall receive. And guess what, folks? You're getting not just Bryan H. Waters, but you're getting the real Dwayne Allen.
No, baby, that's for somebody else. We're just going to keep you right where you're at right now.
It doesn't matter what you think.
The Wrestling Wrealm presents Break It Down with Bryan H.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Break It Down with Bryan H. I'm your host, Bryan H. Waters. Now, guess what? You know what? Tonight, you get the Wrestling Wrealm completely. You get Bryan H. Waters and the man, the myth, the legend himself, the real Dwayne Allen. What's up, Dwayne?
Nothing, brother. You know, glad to be here. It's kind of what we do, but it's about time you have me on your show. You've always been doing a ton of shows, and I think this is the first invite I've ever gotten. That's how you treat me.
No, I know when you're going to be on the show, it's got to be done right. Anything happens, it's got to be done right. So, big show, big night, Survivor Series. Overall, what does Survivor Series mean? You know, I think the last time we was together, it was getting ready for last year's Survivor Series.
Was it?
Well, yeah.
Okay, was.
I should say publicly. You know, people, obviously, we, like I say on the show every week, we talk every day. Mm-hmm. But this is one of those instances where we're allowing the people into our conversation.
Well, yeah, Survivor Series, is always a special time. This is around the holidays, being around family, which we are. So naturally, you know what I mean, watching Survivor Series this time of year is always fun. It's one of the original, I guess Big Four?
Yeah.
Pay-per-views as it was. And last year we had a fun time watching AJ Styles take on Brock Lesnar. So it was no way in the world I was going to pass up an opportunity to watch, Brock Lesnar to go toe-to-toe with Daniel Bryan this year. So, it's definitely fun night, fun show, especially this time of year. Almost time for Thanksgiving, so nothing like some good wrestling.
Who you telling? So, Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar, your overall thoughts on the match? We saw Daniel Bryan, we saw him go into that new side. First, he trolled Brock Lesnar throughout the beginning of the match. He ran around and jumped in and out of the ring, and then he teased him. And Brock Lesnar kind of was like, man, if I can get my hands on this little beat, I'm going to destroy him, which he did until Daniel Bryan was finally able to get that one niche of offense he needed. Although, he took him to the limit, but he came up short.
See, I knew it was going to be a good match when I saw the time. It was like maybe 10 o'clock. Usually Brock Lesnar's matches start around 10:50, 10:55. Mm-hmm. When I saw the time and Daniel Bryan made his way to the ring and the way he was looking at Brock Lesnar, to me, the biggest thing I took away from that match was these guys are just pure professionals. The storytelling is one of the biggest things. We're older fans now. So there's certain things that don't really apply to us that we can't be necessarily unfair about when it comes to certain wrestling matches. But for being an older fan, I think the storytelling is one of the biggest things for me now that I recognize that the main roster finds the most important. And the way the match started, the way Daniel Bryan thought he was getting the best of Brock Lesnar, trolling him a little bit, trying to entice him to let him know that he wasn't afraid. But then when Brock Lesnar got his hands on him, it got almost dead silent in that arena. It was like, oh no. But then as the story progressed, when you see a guy like Daniel Bryan and a guy like Brock Lesnar, there's no way in the world you expect a guy to have a chance. And they told you that part. They made you see that part. No matter how much of a change Daniel Bryan has had with his recent heel turn, it was like, it doesn't matter how vicious this guy is, he's no match for Brock Lesnar. But then once Daniel Bryan began to gain momentum and we realized he wasn't dead, I mean, the crowd erupted. It was fun to watch. It was a different story being told. Brock Lesnar is, like I said, to me, he's one of the best storytellers in the game. No matter how much you don't like his offense, I think when you watch most vets get in the ring, they're not going to sit there and work you to death. They're going to tell a story because they got to be smart about how they present their product to preserve their careers and to also make life easier on themselves.
Now, you're a gear guy. What did you think about Daniel Bryan's gear tonight?
I was so happy. I was like, man, I was never feeling the Seahawks green look, but I guess his impending heel turn that happened, it was kind of like, okay, cool, now I get it. But I mean, that much edgier Daniel Bryan is what I remember of him in his early years in Ring of Honor, on the independent scene when he went early on, before he began, late in his Ring of Honor career, he was already turned into a face when he was that last run he had traveling with Colt Cabana and that crew. But there was a time he was very cerebral, very assassin-like, where he shaved everything. He was very dark. He was very menacing. He was very stiff. You know what I mean? He looked a lot like a Japanese wrestler. He wrestled a lot of. It looked like it's out. I guess you call it strong style. And I was seeing different shades of that version of Daniel Bryan, which I don't think we've ever seen in the WWE. Right. We saw him in heel before, but it was kind of the arrogant, I'm not going to be bully type guy. But this different, this style of Daniel Bryan, and I haven't seen it in years. And it was fun to see it. I'm like, thank you. He's having a more edgier look. He looks more dangerous. He looks. And of course, me being a gear guy, I was like, thank God he changed his gear.
Well, I know one thing. At the end of the day, because shout out, because I know the Flex Zone is listening, Daniel Bryan is still WWE champion.
High five. That's what we do now. Yeah. Every time we announce that Daniel Bryan's WWE champion, it's just automatic high five.
So, moving on. Let's talk about the women. Charlotte Flair, Ronda Rousey. A dream match. Another dream match. You taking the best in the WWE.
Right.
I say she's going to be the best in WWE history when it's all said and done. She's going to be the best women's wrestling history. You have Ronda Rousey, the one woman who made women in MMA, who made that product where she main evented UFC multiple times. Let's be real, the women's division, no offense, hasn't recovered. I'm not going to claim myself as a UFC fanatic by any means, but I do know one thing. When I turn on SportsCenter, I don't hear about them talking about a woman the way they did Ronda Rousey. She's with us now. She's in the WWE. She represented Monday Night Raw tonight, or Sunday night, whenever you're listening. We saw Charlotte go to a new level.
Yeah, like I just said previously, it goes back to storytelling for me personally. This is a different story. This is a different side of Charlotte that we have not seen before. Now you say, okay, well, you can look at it on a flat surface and say, well, we saw her in a hardcore. That wasn't a regular hardcore match. Like, she tore the house down with Becky Lynch at Evolution, and it was still a different match. Charlotte Flair looked almost psychotic. She had got to a point where she realized she was not beating Ronda Rousey, and she snapped. I mean, she looked insane. That's a side of her we've never seen before. We've seen her being taken to the limit. We've seen her get relatively hardcore, but this was a different, like, it was tough to describe, like, what exactly do you call what happened to Charlotte Flair outside of she snapped? And the fact that Ronda Rousey is the one that took her to that point, and it's like it's something different. It's something we haven't seen before. I've never seen that look in her eyes before. I've never seen her resort to that. She's always been the one that's like, look, I live up to every challenge that I have, and for her to say, she was holding her knee and her arm or whatever it is she was struggling with, and she just finally lost it. And I'm like, man, that's something we have not seen before. And I think it's important for someone like Charlotte Flair, who's probably going to have a lot of longevity. It keeps her from becoming very stale. And like I said, for me, it always goes back to storytelling. What story can you tell? And to me, it's important that you're able to tell a different story. Even with the thing about Ronda Rousey is, of course, she has limitations in the ring, but that has not stopped her from being a major star. That has not stopped her from performing. And what it does is, it takes away a lot of the excuses that some of these other guys have. Like, oh, well, I don't want to hear that. This girl's she hasn't been here that long. And as long as you can train, but you understand the psychology of putting a wrestling match together and telling the story and trying to get it to convey to the audience, not only the live audience, but also those watching at home. If you can do both, that's what makes you a superstar. And that's what I saw tonight with Charlotte and Ronda Rousey.
I'm sitting there watching, and one of the things I noticed about Charlotte, when she came out to the ring, her hair was braided up. Now, me, somebody who has multiple sisters, I noticed that whenever they go swimming, they braid their hair. You look at Sonya Deville, because she's that fighter, she usually wears her hair in braids. So Ronda Rousey wears her hair in braids. So I was like, wait, Charlotte looks like she's getting ready for a dog fight. And as the match progressed, you started seeing the psychotic build. If you notice, her hair started to look wild. And I remember we were sitting there watching it together, and I remember you was like, I've never seen Charlotte tell that story before. And it was like the moment you said that was the moment it seemed like her eyes just kept getting bigger and bigger, and her hair just kept getting more wild. We never seen her hair that wild. Usually she just wears it down. She'll get it nice and done up, and it looked rough afterwards. But tonight, like, it was on a whole different level. Like, she was meme material tonight. But now, where does she go from here? What happens next? What are you expecting next?
I think that this whole feud between not only Charlotte but a lot of the ladies in the women's division and the upstart of Ronda Rousey, her natural charisma and popularity. She's a superstar. She revolutionized women's sports. She played a key factor in what was able to be done in the WWE. What she accomplished in UFC, which was never previously done before, not at least not on a commercial level. I think WWE followed that trend, and for her to come in right away and to have as much success as she's having, a lot of the girls who decided they paved the way to be in a situation that they're in right now, like, nah, we're not taking the back seat to Ronda Rousey because what she's done in her world. We were here first, and we're not giving it up, which is the same mentality that most men would take. So, I think for the women to be treated in that same light and be able to be given that same platform, I mean, Charlotte is not taking it. Becky Lynch is not taking it. And it may be two other girls who may not take it. But eventually, I think it's going to get to a point where Ronda Rousey is not going to keep being outnumbered, and she may call on for some backup. She may call on three other women that go by a certain nickname that maybe Charlotte Flair's father and his buddies coined the phrase of years ago. And, maybe Charlotte took offense to that. I don't know. It's something to think about. I think there's a lot of cross-branding going on, but, we still got a few more pay-per-views and we have WrestleMania, so you never know.
I got to ask you before we wrap this part up, were we supposed to get this from Natty?
I don't think that we would have, in all honesty.
Okay.
I think that the way Natty has been presented for so many years, I don't think we would have seen that level of crazy. Charlotte looked unhinged. You know what I mean? And even with her pedigree, in her lineage, it's just like, man, it's tough to see. I didn't expect to see that from Charlotte, so I can't say I expected to see that from anybody else.
Yeah, and it's what's so funny about it? When Rick snapped like that, he was a face. It was he was being nice, and then one of the heels did something, and then it made him snap. But it was a way where people cheered. Charlotte did it, and she was like being lovable and then she was a heel because Rick was always the heel, the swagged out heel. Probably one of the earlier cool heels, where Charlotte has been, she's played both roles, but in this case, she was a face who, when she went crazy, she was definitely presented in a heel Charlotte mode.
Well, let's get all realmy with it. We always, in the wrestling realm, we always like to go deeper than the average, the average concept. So to address what you said, right? Knowing what you said about Charlotte, she's been a heel, she's been a face. But the one thing that's different about Charlotte and Rick is that Charlotte has been dominant regardless. Yeah. Heel or face, right?
That's true.
She's never had a problem winning matches. Ric Flair spent his whole career cheating. Like, think about it. He traveled from town to town, and he was never above cheating.
Right.
Majority of his wins he cheated. Low blows, thumbs to the eye. His thing was like, I'm champion, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to be champion. Booker T says it all the time. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. That's an old school mentality. And that's where Flair's come from. Charlotte's never had to go to that limit before because she's always dominated everyone she's been in the ring with. And there's been people that pushed her to the limit, but she's never had to say, I got to resort to this to keep my title.
Right.
Tonight, she had to go to that point. That's something we've never seen before. Her father does it all the time.
Yeah.
But to see her finally get to that point, it's like, man, I don't know what brought this out. Or I don't know what point in the match that Ronda got under your skin to the point where you said that she completely lost it.
I guarantee you one thing. Whether he was in LA or not, Rick was somewhere crying.
That's kind of standard when anytime Charlotte Flair's in a match, you can almost guarantee Flair's going to cry.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of these 5-on-5. Let's start with the men. We saw on the main show, we saw Raw just dominate everything. Spoiler alert. They won the 5-on-5. Baron Corbin and Braun Strowman needed them to win that, in a sense, to help solidify his right to a title shot.
Right.
What'd you think about that? What'd you think about Raw? Obviously, like I've said, off the air, that I felt like last year's 5-on-5 was presented better. This year's was, I thought the match was decent.
Right.
But what'd you think?
I think it was perfect for the Raw brand because it kind of left a lot of question marks that kind of forced you to say, okay, let me check this out Monday. Because the one word that I can describe Raw tonight based off their that 5-on-5 Survivor Series matchup was dysfunctional. I mean, how many times did we see these guys turn on each other? Egos got in the way.
Yeah.
I was surprised they pulled it off in the first place. I said, yeah, they didn't really gonna pull this off, and they did. And even after the match, Baron Corbin still clocked Braun Strowman. I'm like, you just asking for trouble, man. You keep on poking the bear. But you saw all these kind of alpha dogs still jockeying for position. Everybody, when you look at the dynamic of, listen, whoever wins this match is most likely gonna get a shot at the title. You got 5 guys on that apron. It's like, no, I should be up next anyway. I'm not about to take a back seat. And I think Raw set it up perfectly. With Roman going down, it's been a lot of question marks. Who's next? Who's in line? Who's going to be the guy they're going to go with? How does this story go with Baron Corbin? Baron Corbin, his job was on the line as well.
Yeah.
You know, Stephanie's like, listen, maybe I'll be, you may be acting general manager, but don't think this secures your job. And it makes Baron Corbin look like a genius.
Yeah.
And he still got his shots in him, Braun Strowman. I'm like, he's going to end up in a cage match or a Hell in a Cell somewhere. Where you going to go then?
So do you think, now I got you, see, now I got you right here. I'm privy to these conversations every morning.
Oh, boy.
The fans aren't. Braun Strowman, title or no title?
No title.
Okay.
Like we said, we've had this conversation before. Braun Strowman had a lot of momentum at one point, and it kind of got derailed. Luckily for a guy like Braun Strowman, he's the monster among men. It's not that hard to go back to him at any point you want to because it's an easy sell. He's a monster among men. Who's going to stop him? But I think right now you have a unique opportunity to try to shake things up, add a little pizzazz, a little bit of spice to your show. Losing Roman was a huge deal for Raw. I mean, that was the guy that they're hitching their wagon to, and now that he stepped out, you kind of got Seth Rollins engaged in a match with, engaged in a feud or a brawl with Dean Ambrose, so he's occupied. He can't be the guy to take over the show. You guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn that are not available right now due to injury, those guys can't take over the show because I know for a fact Kevin Owens will try to. You got guys like Bobby Roode and Jinder Mahal, curtain jerking, which I'm not okay with. It's like, okay, so you can't make those guys. So now you got this. Those 5 guys are your top guys that I'm seeing every week on Raw. Like those are your main players, and all 5 of those guys at some point decided they feel like they should be next in line. So I think to easily go back to Braun, it's like, well, that's just too easy. We can always do that. It's not new. We don't have to do that right now. But getting a guy like Drew going, getting a guy like Lashley still, got his hand in the pot, deciding he wants to go. And I think it presents a unique opportunity for a different matchup, for a different story to tell. And look at Kevin Nash's chicken legs.
I was getting ready to say that.
Watching Table for 3 as we do this. He never does lower body, by the way. Not that subject. His upper body's always jacked and he does those. And his legs look like toothpicks.
That's how you know we've been doing this for a long time. Because I was thinking the same thing.
We both said the same thing. As soon as I saw his chicken legs, I said, this dude never just skips leg day every week. But yeah, those are. I mean, so Braun Strowman, no title, not right now, because you don't have to do it right now. I mean, why not? People want to see Drew McIntyre. He's the chosen one. He's finally back. Why not go with him right now?
Yeah.
I mean, Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar, that's a different story to tell.
Yeah.
What do they call him? What do they call him? What does he call him? Is he Scottish? The Scottish psychopath, right?
Yeah.
That's what they call him, yeah. So
if not, tweet us at Wrestling Wrealm the correction.
Yeah, I don't want to be offensive just in case. I think it's a Scottish psychopath they call him.
So what about a guy like Dolph Ziggler? Because obviously Dolph wants to be the guy.
Right.
And you look at, and I remember when this happened, we was with, in the group chat with the clique, us part of the Flex Zone. And when Dolph came with Drew, and I was like, oh man, Drew came to Dolph, and I'm like, why? And you was like, yo, calm down. You sent the picture of 2 dudes with attitudes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminded me of.
But with 2 dudes with attitudes, we saw HBK eventually get over it. Granted, Kevin Nash went over first. Will we see Dolph Ziggler ever get in that position? Now, we've seen him as world champion before, but let's be real. Neither one of those 2 title reigns meant anything. The only thing you remember about it was the win where he won it the night after WrestleMania 29. He got that huge pop. That became known. That was when the night after WrestleMania was solidified as a thing. It became a thing, honestly, after WrestleMania 14 when X-Pac came.
Right.
But it became, for this generation, not us, the Attitude Era guys, or, the old school guys. But for this generation, the night after WrestleMania became a thing after 29, that's where you saw crowds really trying to take over a show. But now, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm watching him, and when Drew says these little things that Dolph does, when Drew is talking about how bad he is and how he's going to do this, Dolph is always kind of sitting in the back looking at him like, wait a minute, no, I'm still the guy. What's going to happen with him?
I think, yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, okay, well, somebody's going to turn on somebody. I think you can easily go with, once Drew McIntyre gets to that spot, like, look, bro, I don't need you anymore. I was using you to get to this spot. Or we both can't be champions, so it is what it is. It's tough to say. I think Drew McIntyre, like I said, he provides a lot of fresh matchups, a lot of fresh stories. Do I see Dolph Ziggler getting back to that point? Once again, no, not really. Because, why? You have to ask the question why. Why would we do that? What's going to be different now that we haven't seen 1,000 times before? Not that he's not capable of doing it, but at the same time, if you have an opportunity to provide new matchups, make things interesting, why do you? Does he do anything special that we have to say, oh no, we got to go back to him? I mean, he's not AJ Styles. AJ Styles, WWE champion, lost the title, had a United States title run, and then he went back to AJ Styles, right? Because there was something that AJ provides and says, listen, we got not, and then he had that year-long reign. Do I see it with Dolph Ziggler right now? No. Does he have a lot of momentum? Sure. I mean, they could play the buddy role. Say, listen, if my guy's champion, I'm cool with that right now because, hey, we're unstoppable right now. We're on top. One thing that I remember Dolph Ziggler, I don't know what I saw that he was on or what I heard of something, but he was just talking about his current run with McIntyre. He's like, look, this is the most consistent I've done of anything of any importance or relevance in a long time. I'm like, well, he's kind of got a point. It's like, well, why would you derail that? Because, okay, so McIntyre becomes champion. What happens to Ziggler? He falls right back to the wayside. Or you can always throw the strap on him again. IC title on him. But then it's tough to say.
Yeah. Definitely tough to say. I'll be interested to see what our boy Antonio Banks says because I know he's listening. He always comments on the YouTube channel. So, you know, Dolph's his guy.
I love Dolph Ziggler. Like I said, he reminds me a lot of Shawn Michaels, and I appreciate that.
So what did you think about the women's 5-on-5 match? We saw the Raw women go over, which I thought in the beginning, I said on the preview show, that I thought that Raw's women are also dysfunctional, mainly because we saw Ruby Riott and Natalya having their issues. Alexa Bliss, being as smart as she is, got rid of them during the pre-show because she said, look, they started fighting. She said, look, both of y'all eliminated, and she brings in Sasha and Bayley. They, led by Nia Jax, who's, like you said, is owed a title match. We saw them take care of Raw. And Nia Jax getting the pin over Asuka.
I mean, it was huge for Nia Jax. Of course, she's been under a lot of heat to the fans. We've never been backstage, so we can always speculate and we can hear a bunch of the newsletters and the dirt sheets say what they want to say, but I mean, we never know for sure. I mean, I just saw stuff on IG and Twitter talking about, they should fire Nia Jax. I'm like, you kidding me? And then she wins the match. This guy Vince McMahon's hand, like, okay, a mistake was made, sure, but if everybody kind of dislikes it for being a monster, why don't we just go with it, right? Since when does Vince McMahon decide to take a mistake or something negative and not turn it into a positive? Well, let's use it. Like, okay, it happened. It's okay now. But so we just throw it away for moral sake? Vince McMahon? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I think she's a heel. You want people to hate her. People already have an attitude because she took Becky Lynch off the show. If she took our top person off the show, let's just might as well do something to make it worth it. Like, if you hate her, fine. This is what we want you to do.
Right.
It made sense. Like you said, dysfunctional. Raw. I mean, but here's the interesting part about dysfunction, and this is the part of the story that I like. Usually when there's dysfunction, you don't have success. It's the reason you lose. It seemed like the dysfunction was the reason that they won.
Think about Golden State Warriors, right?
Most championship teams had their fair share of dysfunction. There's 1,000 stories about guys like Kobe and Shaq. There's 1,000 stories about Michael Jordan that people probably don't even believe. You know what I mean? But to me, I tell people there's only two types of teams that win championships. Either one that's dysfunctional or one that's really, really close. I've never heard of a team that's in the middle to win a championship. And you think about it. Does Team Raw still win if Nia Jax does not push, Sasha Banks off the top rope?
Right.
If she doesn't intervene, I mean, maybe she didn't have faith that she was going to beat Asuka. I mean, it's things like that you have to look into. Braun Strowman, same thing. If he did not intervene, would they have gotten the win? I mean, he did finish them off.
Yeah.
You don't see dysfunction be the reason that a team wins. You usually the reason a team loses. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, man, if that's how you guys operate, at the end of the day, your bottom line was we got to sweep SmackDown. Not only did we try to win, we trying to sweep SmackDown, which they successfully did. And I mean, the women were no different.
Yeah. So real quick, let's get into the Intercontinental title match. Intercontinental versus U.S. title match. Now, we saw Seth Rollins defeat Shinsuke Nakamura. Mm-hmm. Nakamura is a guy we haven't really seen much, but he's that hand that they know that you're going to need a good match, you call him on.
Right.
A dream match this was for some people. Seth Rollins has been having to deal with Dean Ambrose, who we found out afterwards that he will be defending his title. Mm-hmm. I thought, again, and this is what I love, honestly, when I can't predict everything that's going to happen. I thought, okay, yeah, Dean Ambrose is going to come out there, he's going to cause Seth Rollins a match, or he's going to be some sort of distraction. Nowhere to be found tonight. I guess he figured, hey, it's close to Vegas, I'm going to hang out at home, I deal with Where do you see Seth Rollins going from here? Here's a guy who you called. Mm-hmm. We had time, we rolled the tape.
Here comes the controversy.
We rolled the tape from season 3 of the Wrestling Wrealm.
How long ago was that?
2013, right?
Good gosh.
Right before we graduated from college.
Sheesh.
But you said it. Everybody was saying Roman or Dean Ambrose. You said first Seth Rollins. Actually, you said that in 2012, right after TLC 2012.
Yes,
the
indeed.
Month after they made their debut. Mm-hmm. You saw your guy go all the way to the top. Become, perhaps, as I had said, the best first-time WWE champion since Shawn Michaels in 1996. Mm-hmm. He lost the title. Well, he never lost it, but he had to give it up.
Right.
He came back. To me, didn't get that same momentum he had. I felt that the match he had at Triple H at WrestleMania 33 went too long. Mm-hmm. It was a good story, but to me, it wasn't what I'm getting from Seth Rollins now.
Right.
What did you see, and where do you see him going as we get ready to go into 2019?
Honestly, it's tough to say because what I see may not necessarily be what happens. Mm-hmm. Right now, Seth Rollins has unfinished business with Dean Ambrose. Carmella is gorgeous, by the way.
Right.
They plan to replay Survivor Series on the network. She made me lose my concentration. Seth Rollins, I think you'll see more distracted Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. Because this is something that's a little bit more serious to him.
Right.
But I think the reason Seth Rollins may be conflicted, and this is just my speculation going forward, is because Seth Rollins did this first. Mm-hmm. He turned on the Shield the first time. He stabbed his brothers in the back. And now that Roman went down, Dean Ambrose has decided, yeah, I may be back and I'm tired of living in the shadows. You all have done what you wanted to do and had your runs, and I'm back. And I think he's been mentally conflicted. Mm-hmm. And he has a problem with Seth Rollins. So I'm like, Seth Rollins, he feels like, to me, it seems like he feels guilty almost. Mm-hmm. Because he's like, I can't sit there and be mad at something that I've done myself. I think you see a distracted Seth Rollins. I would like to see Seth Rollins begin to fight to get back to that prominence of dominance that he had in 2014. But I think he's going to lose his focus. I think he's going to be emotionally wrapped up in Dean Ambrose and getting his revenge and trying to figure out, because Dean Ambrose has yet to give him an answer. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the catch-22. It's like, yeah, not only do you want to get your hands on him, the problem isn't me getting my hands on this guy. Mm-hmm. The problem is I don't know what's going on with you.
Yep.
Why are you doing this? And Dean Ambrose has not given him any answers. He's not giving us any answers. And Mandy Rose is quite gorgeous, by the way, too.
I just realized she had her own lower third.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It looks like Emelina. Remember they tried to do that?
Uh-huh.
Goodness
and
gracious.
they tried Eva Marie. They finally got it right.
Yeah, that's what she does. She stops the whole podcast. Like that, everything just shut down because she walked on the screen. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine us trying to do something like this and we got to do like a watch along, like Conrad and Bruce, or Conrad and Eric doing 83 weeks. So that's
watch along.
I think it might be something to that.
Uh-huh.
But Seth Rollins, I would like to see him get back to prominence, but man, this is going to be a heavy one. It's family.
Can this feud, let's say Brock Lesnar's out of the equation.
You've already messed up right there. I don't know how you're going to make any money.
Well, can this feud be the feud for the Universal title for Monday Night Raw?
Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. Stop it. Get out of here with that. That's terrible. Come on now.
Terrible?
I'm not buying that.
Okay.
I didn't buy him. He was WWE champion. I think that's yeah.
Hey, I didn't turn on the TV. I just let the WWE Network continue roll.
This is Bret Hart in the back. That's funny.
I know, right?
Not for the Universal title.
Okay.
Like I said 1,000 times, what's the point of having these superstar shakers if you're just going to keep giving us the same matchups?
That's true.
Me, that bothers me. And it's a problem that I'm having now with and I'm going to keep saying it, with Jinder Mahal and Bobby Roode being on Raw. Mm-hmm. Like, these guys are two established stars that you had on SmackDown. And it was successful. It's not like they flopped. They just had more opportunity on SmackDown. And then you bring in a Raw, like, oh, yeah, and they're not doing anything. Mm-hmm. They're doing house shows and main event if you're lucky.
Both of them were United States champion, and Jinder was the 50th WWE champion. That's a big deal.
He had a 6-month reign. It wasn't no transitional title. You know what I mean? It was, and it's like, and then, so, once again, I'm not a huge fan of why give us Seth. If you didn't give me a fresh story between Ambrose and Seth Rollins, I'll probably know. Now, don't get me wrong. Their chemistry is almost undeniable. Mm-hmm. Even from their first match that they had at Hell in a Cell. I don't know if it was actually at Hell in a Cell, but I know it was on the Hell in a Cell match. When they both did the spot. They did the spot twice. Well, Ziggler and what you called it the spot, but they did the spot where they're hanging from the cell and they both fall into the table. Mm-hmm. So, like, even from that point, Ambrose and Rollins are, undeniable. There's nothing, not taken away from that, but it's just like, once again, what's the point of shaking things up and trying to provide fresh new opportunities? I mean, do you really think that's going to be a moneymaker? I don't, because I'm not paying to see that again. But like I said, because of the heartstrings, it's family. It's interesting dynamic because this time, think about it. When the Shield first broke up, we all thought it was going to be Dean Ambrose because he was the one that was always kind of unhinged. I'm going to tell you why I never liked Dean Ambrose from the very beginning.
Okay.
He was the first one that began to change up the whole Shield gimmick. Everybody had the same outfit. So all of a sudden, Dean Ambrose stopped wearing the Shield. He started wearing a white t-shirt underneath, like his little stuff. He started wearing the white t-shirts underneath his little vest. Then he stopped wearing the vest altogether. And I'm like, see, he's doing too much to try to stand out. And then Seth Rollins turned on the shit. And I was like, that was one of the biggest swerves I don't think anybody called.
No.
I didn't see it coming. Everybody said, well, it's going to be this Dean Ambrose guy because he seems kind of unhinged. And then now, we're kind of getting that story now, but it makes more sense now. Coming back from injury, he's kind of been conflicted within himself. He doesn't know who he is, and he's tired of being lost in the Shield. Because think about it, he's sitting in the dust. Dean Ambrose is already, like, his career is already beyond some guys' careers that will ever go. Like, it's tremendous, but it's kind of like him.
He's a Grand Slam champion.
I mean, out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And in his absence, Seth Rollins has blown up. He's been huge. Same thing with Roman. Goodness, Roman pushed to the moon Reigns. You know what I mean? It's like he's stumped both of their careers at this point.
Yeah.
With his accomplishments, what he's been able. First of all, just Undertaker and Brock Lesnar. I mean, that kind of solidifies his place in the Hall of Fame already. Mm-hmm. And Dean Ambrose is like, I'm kind of lost in the mix of all this. Yeah. So I think that makes a huge difference.
And now, before we get into, because we're going to definitely talk NXT, because you on fire right now, and we definitely got to talk about some things that the people need to hear. Do you make anything out of Raw not beating, SmackDown not getting a win? Does that make you look at SmackDown as a lesser brand? Does that make you say Raw needed to do this because we all know SmackDown was a better show? And do you see any riffraff coming from Shane McMahon and Paige coming up?
As a fan, I say that the last thing you said. I think because naturally, I think Raw needed the rub because SmackDown is a better show. Okay. In my opinion, I'm a SmackDown guy. I have been for a while now. Ever since the brand split, I've been a huge proponent of SmackDown over Raw for those reasons. Like I said, we've gotten fresh matchups. There's not many times I watch SmackDown and I'm disappointed. Mm-hmm. Raw sometimes can always get pretty stale for whatever reason. But I think there's definitely going to be some type of repercussions. I like to say, well, this isn't over yet. But then what do you do? Mm-hmm. Like, there is no brand. Like I said, I like the concept of Survivor Series being, because, Survivor Series got old after a while. Vince wasn't a huge fan, but of course the fans years ago spoke about, like, you can't get rid of Survivor Series. Yeah. So you take the concept of bragging rights and you put in Survivor Series, and it made perfect sense, especially in today's climate. But I don't know. It's just...
It's hard to believe when you think about it. You look at 99 Survivor Series, 99 2000 Survivor Series. I think there was like one traditional Survivor Series match, and they were both throwaways.
Right.
99, the main thing was Triple H rocking Austin, which we got Triple H, Rock, and Big Show. But then that throwaway match was just like some random match. I don't even remember right now, and I don't have notes. 2000, we had a kind of a triple main event where you had Undertaker versus Kurt Angle for the WWF title. You had Rock versus Rikishi, personal vendetta. Austin versus Triple H, personal vendetta. Then you had some random traditional matches that was just throwaway matches.
Right.
Granted, 2001, it was personal because it was for the control of the WWE. But that was the only traditional match. Everything else was like to unify the titles.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, we're getting back to where it was, where we're getting traditional matches each and every week, but it's a Raw versus SmackDown. But I do think with the Royal Rumble being a joint pay-per-view, maybe that's an opportunity where it's like, it won't be it'll be an opportunity where you could kind of see like maybe some retribution within the Rumble. Like make sure we gotta win the Rumble. You know what I mean? Maybe maybe SmackDown will win both Rumbles.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a way to put it. I mean that's it's definitely an option. And see the thing is, it's complicated to me in my mind, just as a fan watching it, because I'm like, okay, you can always find a way to get retribution because the joint branded shows, they're not as separated as they used to be.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm saying, okay, I don't like Raw and SmackDown mingling too much because then that's when they start to get to this Raw and SmackDown Super Show, and before you know it, the brand split is over with without even no real announcement.
Right.
That's what happened the last time.
Yeah, like 2011.
Yeah. And after a while, they just kind of got out of it. And even when they decided to announce the brand split, I was like not sure about it. I was like, oh boy, here we go this. But I loved it because AJ Styles got featured. A lot of the other guys got featured. And when you have I've been grabbing about this for a minute. Mm-hmm. To me, when you had the separate pay-per-views, you get a chance to see more superstars for each brand versus your TV is booked completely differently now because you got to share space with Raw versus, oh shoot, we got SmackDown, we got 4 weeks of TV. Let's book the TV so we can fit all these guys on this pay-per-view because you got to fill your pay-per-view card. Mm-hmm. So you get to see more superstars, more opportunities. Like I said, guys like Andrade, Cien Almas, guys like Rusev, Shelton Benjamin, those are guys that I enjoy. Jeff Hardy, watching those guys all the time. But they kind of get lost in the shuffle because you can only push a certain amount of storylines because you got to share that card with Raw.
Yep.
Versus the pressure being on saying, well, we got to fill the entire show, so we got to make sure these guys are featured on TV. So Shinsuke's not being thrown away. He gets the spot. He gets a featured spot because he is United States champion. It's not always this pay-per-view we can put him on there, but we're not because we kind of got this already on there. And it's just like, okay. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I don't know. It's tough.
Cool. So. Elephant in the room.
Oh boy. There's always an elephant in the room.
NXT.
Oh man.
So you guys have been watching, obviously whenever there's the big four, there's a takeover in town as well. So if you've been paying attention, actually you probably haven't because he's not been as very vocal about it. But, us in the clique, we've been hearing this, so I got to make it public. The Velveteen Dream came up short against Tommaso Ciampa in an NXT Championship match.
Absolutely.
Now, it's not too many that I get you on, but I told you he was going to end up in the WWE. You was like, man, they don't need him, this, that, and the other, right? All right. Now, I saw a lot of people clamoring for this guy to be on the main roster. After many conversations and the real Dwayne Allen forcing my superior intellect to really, do some critical thinking, I realized, like, man, it's not right. Now, would you like to elaborate on that so the people can hear and, you can either become an internet favorite or internet hated?
Yeah, it's gonna be one or the other. Here's my thing. I think let me just say this as a disclaimer. There's a lot that may work. But let's talk about what's really going to work. Because at the end of the day, it's one guy that's going to make that call, right? As Vince McMahon. And if we look at the pattern of what he puts on television and the reasons why he puts these guys on television, and we talk about guys that are top guys, guys that are mid-cards, guys that are draws, guys that are not draws. I look at a guy like Velveteen Dream that's extremely talented. But there's a number of gimmicks that I've seen on the NXT roster that have not been wrong about. That I said, this is not going to work on the main roster.
Go ahead and list them.
The first ones I said was the Ascension.
Mm-hmm. That was when they were still on Hulu exclusive.
Yeah, I remember. That's how we got into NXT early on because the Hulu. I looked at Ascension and I'm like, first of all, now back when it was, I don't know which one it was, but the big one in Bryan was originally in Ascension, but then Bryan was I don't know if he's released or whatever happened. I know him and Charlotte had some issues, some domestic issues or whatever was going on with them too. But I know Bryan got released and he ended up in TNA, of course. And they added the small guy. It didn't look believable from the very beginning. During that time, the tag team divisions really was not being featured that heavy anyway on the main roster. Mm-hmm. But they were dominating in NXT. They were beating everybody. I said, first of all, these guys are cutting this. Their first promo I saw looked like a PlayStation commercial. I said, I don't buy this. I said they stolen the Undertaker's gimmick. Like, you can't do the dark lights and the smoke. I said, Vince is not going to do that on the main roster. Mm-hmm. That's for Taker or another character like Taker. When's the last time you see anybody with that type gimmick? They go to the main roster, nothing. Mm-hmm. I said, I told you. And they were dominant. I said, okay, what's the point of having these guys going so undefeated in NXT if you know you're not going to have them come out there and be immediate players on the main roster?
Yep.
Prove me right. Emma came out there and she's doing her little bubble dance. And I thought it was funny. At first I was like, she looks crazy. But I thought it was fun. After a while, I said, this is funny. I said, but that's not going to work with a big audience. Because nobody's going to understand what she's doing. So she debuts on the main roster with Santino Marella. And she doesn't really do the dance. She kind of teases a little bit, but she's kind of going away from it. Never called her. I said, that stuff. And mind you, she was a people's champion. The people loved Emma. Mm-hmm. But that's in that small audience. That's that hardcore wrestling that Triple H talks about. Of course, they're going to appreciate Emma because they appreciate what she was able to do. But I'm like, I don't think Vince is going to buy that because he's not thinking about the wrestling fans. We're always going to be there. We're not new money. He's a businessman at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Of course, he's going to book the person that's always good money. That's why we got Roman. That's why we got Cena, because he's got to go with the money guy, whether we like it or not. Who else didn't work on the main roster? Bo Dallas and Neville. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Two guys that are extremely talented, can do anything and everything in the ring. Bo Dallas, not so much a fan favorite, but a guy like Neville, a people's champion. Yeah. You know, gets to the main roster, between a couple of injuries and a couple of disappointments, the dude doesn't want any parts of the company. Mm-hmm. So those are just a few guys. I'm like, certain stuff just doesn't work on the main roster. You look at a guy like Bobby Roode, gets to the main roster, has tremendous success on SmackDown, gets to Raw. Still don't understand why it hasn't translated over. Now I understand if he's working with a young guy like Gable, that's fine. I get all that. It's not working. Look at American Alpha.
Yeah.
Huge deals in NXT. I mean, the list goes on. I'm like, and people love these groups. But it does not mean it's going to translate to the main roster just because we as fans love these guys.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about a guy like Velveteen Dream right now. Because you ask me, what is his gimmick? 1 minute, he's the eccentric guy. Mm-hmm. Next minute, he's the purple guy. You know, as in the Prince type guy. The next minute, he's the Enigma. And I'm like, okay, so what is Vince going to do to this guy? Mm-hmm. You bring him to the main roster, what is he going to be?
Right.
What is he going to do that guys like Bobby Roode have not done already? Mm-hmm. I look at a guy like Bobby, if that guy's on main event, nobody's exempt. You know what I mean? What are you going to do with Patrick? What, are you going to, is he going to be, you going to give him a push? You going to give him gimmicks? Like, that's fine. And he's an African-American wrestler that a lot of people are craving for to be, we think he can be a crossover guy, but I'm like, how's that going to be a crossover? Because now he's niche. Mm-hmm. Because you can't take that character and cross over to the corporate event. Mm-hmm. You can't put him in a suit and take him out there and think conservative. McMahon's eyes relatively Republican when it comes to his business, right? Yeah, big money. I'm not saying he's a Republican. I don't know what his government affiliation type, where he stands as far as that's concerned. But he's a businessman with high money, and if you don't believe me, just look at Crown Jewel. Mm-hmm. He's got a business to take care of. Like that was a controversial situation to be in, but he took a business route in making that type of decision. So look at a guy like Velveteen Dream, and I say, man, he's extremely talented, but what is he going to do in the main roster? What does Vince McMahon see in that guy that he can say, oh, he's going to be the guy to make me some money? Mm-hmm. Vince McMahon didn't give AJ Styles a chance.
How about that?
If you don't believe me, we just watched AJ Styles 365, and he said it. He said at best they thought he was going to be a mid-card utility guy, and he had to prove that he can be the guy that can shine.
Yeah, he said, what else can you do? I got guys who can do what you do.
He told me, he said, we have guys who do it. I need you to be something else. Mm-hmm. Shawn Michaels, he was on ENC's Podcast of Awesomeness, and he said a lot of fans, a lot of the young guys, just because you hear in the NXT chants and this is awesome chants does not mean that what you're doing is awesome. Yeah. does not mean that it's over. And that's what I believe what they teach a lot of the guys at the Performance Center, and how they perform is not to just do a bunch of indie spots, but to do a lengthy form of storytelling. To one, preserve what you're doing in the ring, but also get your spots in and keep the audience engaged for the entirety of the match, right? If you don't believe me, just watch Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, because Daniel Bryan came out there and everybody was kind of hot, and then he kind of sucked everybody in. He pulled everybody in because he started getting destroyed. Come on now. He started holding his head. He started holding his arm. We know this guy just had issues with concussions.
Yep.
Right? We know, we've seen him on Total Divas sitting there eating food, and then all of a sudden he's dropping his fork because he's having nerve tingles. Come on, man. He's grabbing his arm. Mm-hmm. Everybody got extremely quiet. Paul Heyman's face, it changed like, uh-oh, this might have went too far. And then when he came back to life, so did the audience. That's storytelling. Yeah. Are we going to get that from Velveteen Dream on the main roster? And quite honestly, I didn't see that in his match at NXT. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm saying. I've seen him have the same style of match 3 times already. Uh-huh. The first match he had proved he belonged there. Like, this dude is talented. He's going to be a guy, right? Mm-hmm. Second match, same thing. He's not afraid to take the bumps, stuff like that. But the difference between that match and other matches, for example, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, so much emotion in those matches. Johnny Gargano and Aleister Black, so much emotion in that match. Aleister Black and even Velveteen, their first match they had, it was a different match. Yeah. You know what I mean? To me, I don't think he's ready yet. Okay. You know what I mean? And everybody's like, oh, he's gonna be the guy. He's gonna be the black champion that I got. I'm not buying it right now, because I'm saying, who is the Velveteen Dream? Who is it? Tell me what his character is. It never pushed anybody that wasn't the character. Mm-hmm. Let's be real. You gotta have something. What is Brock Lesnar? He's the beast. The beast. Right? What is Roman Reigns? He's the big dog. He slayed the legend of the Undertaker. Mm-hmm. He slayed the beast. You feel me? What was Goldberg? Goldberg was the legend come back alive. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? What was Finn Balor? Finn Balor was the I don't even know. He was the Demon King. You know what I mean? Before he got injured, because they were going to roll him. Who was Kevin Owens? He was the prize fighter. Yeah. Right. Who was Jinder Mahal? He was the modern day Maharaja. Right. Who was AJ Styles? The phenomenal one, that pit bull. Uh-huh. Who was Jeff Hardy? The charismatic enigma. Who's Randy Orton? He's the Viper. You feel me?
John Cena.
Who's John Cena? The Golden Boy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Daniel Bryan.
You know what I mean? Who's
the ultimate underdog?
That's what I'm trying to say. Like those. That's something. Who's Velveteen Dream? I'm asking, mm-hmm. and if I'm wrong, by all means, prove me wrong. But I'm asking. I'm like, I just don't see Vince saying, "Oh, this is going to be my guy. He's gonna be the guy to take me to the next level." To me, it's a gimmick. It's like Goldust to me, and I'm like, yeah, Goldust was a major point of what we're doing, but he was never WWE champion. Yeah. He was never a guy that said, okay, I got to put this guy at the top of my card because he can wrestle. Everybody can wrestle. Mm-hmm. Everybody, if you're, it's like being in the NBA. Yeah, we know you're good because you're there, right? Yeah. That's why you're here. So, I mean, it's 400-something players that, yeah, you're good. But then when you got everybody that's good in the same ring or in the same arena or in the same league, now who's going to be the alpha out of that group? That's all I'm saying. So,
well, folks, if you got an answer, make sure you tweet him at Dwayne Allen 24 and tweet at Wrestling Wrealm. Staying with NXT, we saw Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. Mm-hmm. What a match! 2 out of 3 falls, 10-minute match. What was your thoughts on it? And to me, when I watched it, I saw 10 minutes. But I saw like bell to bell action. Mm-hmm. And usually when you think of 2 out of 3 falls, you're thinking at least 15 to 20 minutes because you figure it's gonna be, kind of slow, get that one pinfall to break. But I mean, they went at it, and to me, even though it was a quick pace, I didn't feel like it was rushed. I felt like it, because I felt like it was just right. I didn't feel like it needed to be that long.
Mm-hmm. I think they maximized their time well. Mm-hmm. Like I said, and I'll keep saying it for as long as I can. It's just storytelling. It was a time for redemption for Kairi Sane, and she got caught slipping. Yep. Shayna Baszler is champion. Once you get that title, you become a champion and you go to a different place. Mm-hmm. Heel or face, right? You go to that place where you're willing to do whatever you need to do to go to that level. Look at AJ Styles. AJ Styles has been a face for a long time. He hasn't had a heel run since his club days. Yeah. Right? And even his style of wrestling, it's vicious. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That mean the kicks to the forehead. You know what I mean? Like he's the phenomenal form. It is a vicious style. He takes it to you, right? Because he's willing to do whatever he has to do to stay champion, and that doesn't mean being a heel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a more vicious style, and Shayna Baszler is no different. The minute Regal said, "Yeah, she's getting a rematch," by the way, she knew that Kairi Sane had taken her to the limit. She was like, "Oh man." That's why she brought her girls with her. She had them on deck.
Yep.
But just in case things got out of hand, they was going to be there to make sure that they can try to knock her off. And now Kairi Sane ended up having some backup of her own because they're sick of these new girls coming around, kind of pushing their weight around, being former mixed martial artists and stuff like that, man. But I think they maximized their time very well. That was the biggest thing I took away from it. I think they do a tremendous job because not everybody can do well in that little bit of time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a tremendous kudos to both of them and how they're able to work and how to say, okay, look, we can take not only that little bit of time, but they took that style of match and they made it work. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Now, before we get into the next match, I got to ask you about another woman since I got you right here. Bianca Belair.
Yes.
I see, when I look at her, I see money. Mm-hmm. One thing is because, her matches, she's not, like you said, it's not very indie. She goes in there, she tells a story. Mm-hmm. She's the EST of NXT. And I think eventually she'll want to be the EST of WWE. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think she carries that gimmick very well.
Mm-hmm.
She carries herself well. She presents herself well. When she tells you that, you believe it.
Yeah.
How she carries herself inside the ring, outside of the ring. Is she the best wrestler in the world? We don't know yet. You know what I mean? We haven't seen her really featured in a spot where like, oh, let's see her tear the house down. She hasn't been given that opportunity yet. But they're pulling us in though.
Yeah.
Because like she's undefeated.
Right.
And she's walking around saying undefeated. She letting everybody know. And I'm like, man, it looks so natural. Like when I see her, I don't look like her playing a role. I'll give you an example. Early on when we used to watch Naomi, she was trying to do that tough girl, I snatch you bald and girl who you think you got and I deserve a shot. We both said this does not look like her.
Uh-huh.
Mind you, about a year and a half later, we're watching Total Divas, right?
Yeah.
And she's talking about it. She's like, look, I'm having a hard time being a heel. Mm-hmm. She's going over with her husband John. He's like, yeah, we had the same issue because at the time the Usos were good guys.
Yeah.
Face paint and that's what worked for them at the time. He's like, when we first came in, we came in as heels and we were uncomfortable with that because our dad's Rikishi. He was dancing, we like to have a good time. It wasn't naturally who we were. Yeah. And she was talking about, we saw her have so much difficulty cutting these because that's just not who she was.
Mm-hmm.
Bianca Belair, I can't tell that's her or not because she does a really good job of it. And I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to say this right now, as controversial as it sounds, she is the boss better than Sasha Banks.
Woo!
You understand me? Like, if they came in at the same time, and they said, okay, we got these two gimmicks, the EST, they fool around and gave that boss gimmick to her instead of Sasha Banks. Because I still don't believe that she's the boss. She's the boss in the ring, what she does, unbelievable. But outside the ring, that stuff never fit with me.
Right.
Like, you can get away with that at NXT, and because you can do the promos, you can come out and stuff like that. Now, Sasha Banks' ring work speaks for itself. You don't talk about her being, when you say Sasha Banks is the boss, you don't think about, because that's how she is. And that's like, because that girl can go in the ring.
Yeah.
But if you look at that, the diamond rings and the shades, and she pulling up in an Escalade coming to the ring, you're like, I don't really believe that shit. You're from Boston, I guess, But Bianca Belair, if she'd have said, I'm the boss right now, I'd be like, no, I believe you. That's how she carries it. And I'm like, man, she's got a bright future. I mean, her physique is amazing. You can tell she's strong as an ox. Mm-hmm. But I think she carries it well. Like, she knows who she is in NXT.
And it's crazy because she does it with shifting rib syndrome. I interviewed, talked to Dork Sam. He wrote a feature article on her for the Undefeated website,
right,
presented by ESPN. Mm-hmm. And, he said one of the things in the article, she said that, what you just said was, that's her. It just turned up. And mind you, The Miz.
Yeah.
The Miz is always, the one thing that I know I've always liked about The Miz is what I see is a guy who was him, but just turned up 10 notches.
Right.
Let's move on because, we got Aleister, we had Aleister Black and Jordan Gargano. For the, just because Gargano is the reason Black isn't the NXT champion.
Johnny Takeover.
Yeah. What did you think about that, and where do you see these guys going from here?
I listened to, like I said previously, I listened to Shawn Michaels talk about his involvement in NXT on the Edge and Christian's podcast, ENC, part of Freaks of Awesome.
Yeah, I gotta listen to that episode.
It's you'll learn a lot, and that's one thing. And the reason I love this so much is because I learned a little bit about the business from Shawn Michaels and how he's involved. He talked about things that you don't hear most people talk about. That's that directly close with the NXT or WWE product. Mm-hmm. Ed said, "I noticed that with guys that you work with, like the Garganos and the Ciampas, there's certain things that these guys do to evoke emotion." And Shawn Michaels goes into depth about how there's little things that he does. It's like there's certain things that I want to add into the match that guys probably weren't certain about, but it's these little things that kind of took things to the next level. Mm-hmm. It kind of evoked the emotion. It kind of took the story to the next place and make it a little bit more dramatic. I noticed that with Johnny Gargano. Mm-hmm. He was the kind of guy, him and Daniel Bryan to me, like on that same level where they were the ultimate good guys. And to see Johnny Gargano go from being a legitimate good guy to a legitimate bad guy, that's not easy to do.
Right.
Because you can't convince somebody to do one or the other. Mm-hmm. Like Becky Lynch, it's tough to like. And Edge said it. He said, "Yo, I don't care what they do to make her heel. It's not going to work." They said because the fans love her that much. Mm-hmm. He's like, if you're really going to be a heel, you got to do certain stuff. And I'm like, and I don't think she really wants to be a heel. I think she's like, look, I'm just trying to be the best. I'm here to go, and I'm not going to be denied. So what? So on, so forth. Right? Mm-hmm. It's Johnny Gargano for him to go from where he was to where he is now. Like I said, there's chapters in his book. If there's a book called Johnny Wrestling, he's in a different chapter. His promo with his phone at Full Sail Arena, wherever he was at when they did that whole thing with the whole, when he beat down Aleister Black. He looks and sounds so convincing. I'm like, that's not easy to do. I know that for a fact. Right. Because not everybody can do that. And I believed every word that he said. Mm-hmm. And the match itself, first of all, I've never seen Aleister Devilman have a bad match. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I call him Aleister Devilman. I've never seen him have a bad match. Mm-hmm. And every time I see him in a match, he tells a different story. That's what I'm saying. You can tell the levels of NXT. Because there's certain people that put on really good matches, and there's some people they take stuff to a different level. It looks main roster quality because you don't see it every week in NXT. Because it's a developmental brand at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And it's like you save your big guns for NXT TakeOver. You save the Johnny Gargano versus Ciampa, the Aleister Black. Like it was so believable when Aleister Black came back and he was healthy, and I was like, oh boy, he's going to get his revenge on Johnny Gargano. Yeah. Every last piece of that situation, you found yourself saying, oh, this is going to get ugly. Mm-hmm. And then when Johnny Gargano kind of embraced it and said, I'm the good guy in all this, it's like, oh man, he's frustrated. These good guys are tired of being nice guys finish last. Yeah. And they're sick of it. Uh-huh. Johnny Wrestling, Daniel Bryan, like, this is not getting us anywhere.
Becky Lynch is
no. Like, they're it's blurring the line between heel and face. And that's what I'm enjoying so much about WWE right now, because we got it all figured out. We're fans. We watched it for 30-something years. We all figured it out. Now it's like we're not going with the normal passe good guy versus bad guy necessarily every single time. Yeah. Right? And I saw that with Aleister Black and Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano went to a different place, but Aleister Black, I mean, that match was so emotional. Like it's those every match I see Johnny Gargano in, even when he had his match against Andrade Cien Almas, which was a surprise to me. He takes so much emotion away from the fan. It's just like, oh my goodness, everything this dude is going through. Even his match with Ciampa, when he could have had a chance to take him out, he did too much. He got caught slipping. It's just like, man, this guy. I mean, it's one of the things that I feel like that's the level that you got to go to sustain on the main roster, because now the writers, Vince, to me, it seems like they love telling stories. I've never not seen a story being told on Raw. That's why Raw's 3 hours and it's 4 matches. Because that's always the bottom line. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, this is where it should be. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, listen, let's be real. This is what we're watching. We're watching stories being told. And if you cannot tell a legitimate story, I don't think you're going to survive in the main roster.
Yeah. So, and let's talk about the main event, War Games.
Yeah.
What a match. I mean, you had Undisputed Era taking on your boys, War Raiders, a team that you noticed was 2012, 2013 in Ring of Honor.
That's when I wrote that article.
Yeah. And then who was also joined by Pete Dunne and Ricochet. Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, all the talent right there in that ring.
Right.
You know, I look at the Undisputed Era. I see one guy who I saw who had all the personality, who had it, who I could see main event in WrestleMania in the future, and that's Adam Cole.
Right.
And then I saw wrestlers who, yeah, they were good in the ring, but I didn't see that much personality.
Right.
They get to the NXT Performance Center, get a little Triple H sauce,
right,
and now I'm enjoying everything that each one of them are doing.
I mean, we've seen a lot of these guys wrestle before. Like same thing. Most recently, the War Raiders. this is the most personality I've seen out of both of them. It's kind of like you always knew who they were, but now you really know who they are.
Yeah.
And when they tell you they're modern day Vikings, they look like modern day Vikings. And it's not just how they look. And if you don't believe, look at AOP. AOP dresses a certain way, but you don't know who's AOP right now. They look like they're supposed to be some type of Samoan SWAT team type group, but you don't know who they are right now because it's not really defined.
Right.
When you look at the War Raiders, you know these guys are modern day Vikings because they act like it, they look like it, they perform like it.
Yeah.
They're not the average big guys that do big guy things.
Right.
You got Heavy Machinery. The two guys look like bulldozers in
Yeah.
NXT that tag team. You kind of know who they are. These are the big bulldozing type of dudes. Man, the War Raiders, these guys are flying everywhere. They're doing cartwheels. And they have chemistry in the ring with these guys because this is not the first time they faced off.
Right.
I was extremely happy when I saw Kyle O'Reilly take on
Hanson? I mean, bro.
I think it's Hanson. War Hanson. And I was just like, man, I've seen this before. But it was just like, man, that's what you expect. But like I said, it's no different when I saw on 205 Live when I watched Roderick Strong versus Cedric Alexander. I said, this is not the first time I've seen it, so this is going to be good. But it was completely better in the WWE style. I said, man, that's the one thing I didn't see on Independence. They told a story. I guess I can't get it. I'm like, man, it looks so much different as a WWE product than it did on the Ring of Honor show. You know, because Ring of Honor is pure competition, pure wrestling.
Yep.
Let's see who stops who versus that may be the premise for WWE product, but then it's got to be some underlying stuff that goes on in the ring that shows you, look, this is how we're starting it, this is how we're going to middle. It's the wrestling psychology we constantly hear the veterans talking about all the time. Yeah. Something that I think Bret Hart almost perfected. But this War Games match, it was, to me, it was one of the best ones I've ever seen. Like I said, I stand by the statement. I'm talking WCW, even NWA stuff. Now, I may be biased in all fairness to the NWA because I was not born when all the good stuff, all the majority of the good ones happened. And I went back and I watched them. And they haven't affected me because I didn't grow up in that era. Yeah. And, of course, you got your favorites and stuff like that of your classic superstars. But to me,
because I'm pretty sure Glenn Thomas from Wrestling March of Excellence right now, Wrestling March Excellence Radio is probably sitting there tweeting you, getting ready to draw his tweets up like, what do you mean that was better than him and Dr. D.
To take a concept like War Games, right? That's a classic concept. It's older. Yeah. And to present it today with today's product, with today's style in the ring, and with those stories, with those guys, those were not overly giant guys. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those guys were not considered major superstars. And to make it that much, like, it was, the story started from the very beginning with the advantage that Undisputed Era had, right? They started with a regular match, Adam Cole, Ricochet. Yeah. And everybody's like, oh yeah, War Games hasn't even begun. This is just a regular match. So first of all, you got a 2-for-1 off breaks. You got a treat. Yeah. Things got interesting when the gates came out. And then you got to the point where they relocked everything. So whatever happened. And then Pete Dunne got stuck in I was like, man. And then you had a guy like Fish going in there trying to taunt Pete Dunne. And Pete Dunne's grabbing his fingers. He always going for those fingers. And then it's just like, man. And as you see the build-up, Pete Dunne is just a gangster. I mean, he's one of my favorites just off breaks. And then when they finally went and got the bolt cutters, it was like, oh man, all hell's gonna break loose now because Pete Dunne is loose. As if the War Raiders couldn't handle themselves. It was just like, man, it was fun. Anytime I can be this age and I can have this type of fun watching wrestling, I'm like, man, they've done their job. And that's just for me personally. Because it's not much that we have not seen before. So when you can get caught up in the action in the ring, they were able to tell multiple different stories, also keep you engaged, but you still got your spots. You still got the stuff you were looking for. I mean, to me, I'm not saying it's the best one I've ever seen. I can say that today because it just happened, not too long ago. But to me, it was way better than last year's. And I thought last year's was great.
I thought last year's was great.
Last year's had nothing on this year's.
And I think one of the things too that's really cool is they modernize it, because I don't know if the rules was if you climb out the cage that the match is over. Well, that's right?
And see,
you didn't have to have that rule back then, because how many people was really going to the top of the cage, jumping off?
Well, a lot of times in War Games, there was a roof over top.
In the early years. That's right, because they would hang. Yeah,
it was a roof over top. So, and that's the thing. How often can you take a classic concept like that and really make it work in today's society? Like if you take a Texas Bull Rope match and you put Shinsuke and Seth Rollins in that match, and they say you guys are superstars, make it work. It's probably not going to have that much, because how do you make that interesting now?
Yeah.
Right. To me, that was always a house show match. That was a live audience style match. Like you don't think about it. How many Texas Bullrope matches you really see on pay-per-views?
Mm-hmm. What was the last one? when JBL beat Eddie Guerrero for the title?
Right.
Because
JBL was the cowboy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that made sense. In today's product, it's different now. Mm-hmm. So like back in the day, Cowboys was kind of a normal thing. Like everybody came from West Texas, especially say you're in the Southern Territory. Everybody's a cowboy, right? So that's something that kind of comes with the territory, but. Times have changed. The product has changed.
The reason why I'm glad. I remember last year. Now you bring up the cage and the roof. People were complaining about that, but let's be real. You don't want that roof on there because you want to see Ricochet do a 720, 1080 flip.
Right.
You know.
And that was what threw me off early. I thought it was gonna be a cage on top. Mm-hmm. I've always liked those cages because they weren't necessarily as big as a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is a cool concept because it's kind of a cage, but it's got a roof to it. And it was kind of real compact. I thought we want to see that again. Mm-hmm. But of course we didn't. And it was like, well, it's fine. I got over that last year. So seeing it this year and then seeing Ricochet do his spot from the top of the cage. But they did it in the right way. It just wasn't for the sake of doing it. You know what I mean? It just made sense. And like even the biggest thing, the standoff. The standoff did not look cheesy to me.
No, not at all.
Not everybody can pull it. Like I've seen teenage trying that and looking stupid doing that.
Well, I think that's the difference with a guy like Ricochet now going to WWE, NXT, WWE finishing school as opposed to when he was on the Indies. Right. A lot of times you've seen the spots, it was just spots, but now they mean something.
The last time I saw that type of standoff and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun, is when the Ring of Honor All-Stars faced off against the Bullet Club. And I don't remember which New Japan Ring of Honor show it was. It was it's either War of the Worlds or Global Wars. And I believe it was 2015. Okay. But I remember seeing that match and saying, I gotta get this DVD because what was the last time you're gonna see a match with the Young Bucks, Anderson and Gallows and AJ Styles versus Hanson and Rowan? I don't remember who else was in that match. I think Adam Cole and the Kingdom. I don't think the King was in it. I know Adam Cole was. I think he was in it. I could be wrong. He might have been injured still. But that was one of the only other standouts. I said, man, this is gonna be one heck of a match. Mm-hmm. And to see that be pulled off, this is a developmental brand. At the end of the day, these guys are far from being developmental guys, period. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody in that ring that's not a ring general.
I think at this point now, the developmental people are the ones wrestling house shows. Let's be real. You'll see them sprinkled throughout the weekly programming. Right. But when it comes to the takeovers, you're getting the
They got to go to their studs. Mm-hmm. They got to go to their studs.
And I think we're seeing a better... NXT is like... getting back to that point where it's a legitimate third brand or fourth brand if you want to count 205 Live, as opposed to just being like, okay, that's just a developmental show. I'll tune in here and there.
I mean, they're legitimately making new stars. Mm-hmm. There was a time where Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa were curtain jerking for other guys. There was a time where Finn Balor and Hideo Itami were curtain jerking for guys like Kevin Owens and say, you know what I mean? So then, like, you see, like, I remember when it was a massive call-up and everybody kind of left. It was no more Rude. There was no more McIntyre. Like, all those studs kind of got out of there. Mm-hmm. And then DIY had just broken up. I said, man, they just picked up new major superstars.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And I was like...
Takeover Chicago?
Yeah. I said, these guys are going to be huge. You know what I mean? They still had Aikman, Razor, AOP there that was still holding down, as far as the tag division, stuff like that. And then, of course, the Undisputed Era shows up. I mean, and the women, to me, I think the women have always... I think the women's division fares a lot better from NXT to the main roster than the men's division has done so far. Think about all the homegrown NXT WWE superstars from NXT that are superstars now in the main roster. Okay. Right. I'm talking like no exposure at all. Mm-hmm. So we're talking Sasha Banks, we're talking Bayley, we're talking the 4 horsewomen naturally, right? Mm-hmm. But we're also talking Nia Jax, we're talking Alexa Bliss, we're talking Asuka, right? Right. Unless you were a hardcore fan of women's wrestling, there was no Women of Honor. Mm-hmm. For them. I'm not talking about the guys like Seth Rollins, Samoa Joe, and Daniel Bryan. We saw those guys before. We knew who they were when they got there. Mm-hmm. Those are your money makers. But then you say, okay, so who's? I go back to that same argument. So how many homegrown NXT guys? As in, he was signed by NXT, and now he's a superstar on the main roster. Like he was nowhere else. We can't talk about Bobby Roode. Drew McIntyre.
We're talking about is Roman Reigns.
The Triple H has been eating off the Indies for a while.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, he knows that's what his bread and butter is.
which makes 100%. You know, makes sense 100%. I don't deny that one bit. But I'm saying to myself, okay, so who's going to be NXT's first legitimate superstar, as in recruited by WWE? You know, maybe hit the indies, but nobody knows who it really is. But WWE gave him something that says this guy's going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. Once again, people want to say Velveteen, but I'm like, okay, you know, I don't know what to tell you. Like Leo Rush. Leo Rush is a guy he wasn't there long.
Right.
For reasons. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Dude is just, he has that it factor. He's just a little guy. He's a 205 live guy, but I'm like, if that dude had a little bit of size to him, who know? I mean, I can't imagine what they would do to him right now, because you know he's the man of the hour. It's that simple.
Yep.
You know who these people are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I go back. Well, I still ask my question: who's Velveteen Dream? Woo. No, tell me. No, you're on the show. Tell me who he is. And I'm not criticizing him. But everybody keeps saying, "Oh, he's the guy." I'm like, okay, cool. You guys been telling me who somebody's supposed to be the guy all these other times. Who is it? They said Drew McIntyre was the guy. I said, cool. Who is it? You said he's the chosen one, and there was nothing that showed he was the chosen one. He fell through the loop. He left and came back. Now it's like, okay, cool. But now he's like this guy, the psychopath. It's like, no, that's believable. Look at him. He looks nuts. Yeah. Dolph Ziggler, he's been telling everybody he's the greatest in the world all the time. He's had a tremendous career, but it's like, do you believe that? The Miz, he's a Hollywood A-lister, right? Yeah. It's believable. No, tell me who Velveteen. No, you're not skipping out. Tell me who he is.
Didn't we have this conversation? I told you. I can't. You know, it's nothing you can really say.
I think he's extremely talented, but his match with Tommaso Ciampa, I don't know. I was like, it was a phenomenal match. I'm not taking nothing away from him, but to me, that's all it was.
Yeah, I mean,
and to me, it's got to be more. To me, on the main roster, like I said, and the reason I'm saying this is so people make it understand me very clear. I'm not a huge fan of doing something in NXT that's not going to translate to the main roster, because it's a waste of time.
Well, Hogan told him on Tough Enough. Let's be real. Hogan told him it's more than being a mark for the business. Yeah. You know, and that's the thing. Like, we see him dressed like Rick Rude. Now he's dressed like Hogan.
He's doing the same thing.
You know, it's like,
first he was the Prince looking character. I was like, okay, cool. He's got this Prince gimmick going on. Then he kind of came under, I guess the fans got under his skin or whatever. He didn't like how he was being stereotyped. Mm-hmm. He didn't like how he was being typecast, which is fair and understandable. And then he kind of switched it up. Well, he became just kind of very unique. Yeah. And that's the best way I could describe him. Like, he's just really talented. But, like, who is it? Where do you fit him at? Right. Like, Dolph Ziggler, he was the show-off. Mm-hmm. So everything he did, he was a show. Shawn Michaels, he was the showstopper. Yeah. That's what he did. Ric Flair was the man. Triple H was the cerebral assassin.
In the game.
He was the game.
And the king of kings.
He constantly wrong. We're not even talk about Chris Jericho. He was everything under the book.
Batista was the animal.
That's what I'm trying to say, right? Let's be real. Like, that's not do this pretend thing. Oh, just because he's over at NXT, think it's going to work in the main roster. What is he going to do in the main roster? He's got main event written all over. I'm not talking about closing the show. I'm talking about the pregame match before what you call it with Zack Ryder and my guys Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins and Rhino Heath Slater, which I love. And I'm getting mad because I'm not even seeing those guys on main event now. I'm like, where are my guys at? At least if you're going to put them on the show, god dang, you're going to be there with the Ascension. Tyler Breeze is another one. He was Prince Pretty. It's cool, but Prince Pretty is a gimmick. Yeah. Vince doesn't do well with the over, like, he's not that big. He's not that. They try to come out. They gave him his gimmick. He had a Summer Rae. He had a Valet. They tried to make it work. He didn't get over. Fandango. Okay, cool. That was fun for a while, and it was fun for what it was. Now what? It's not working because it's too much of a niche. When you're a niche guy, it's like, what do you do? How do you make money off this person? Yep. And every person I said, like, when they moved to, they had to. He's been there forever. Mm-hmm. He was in FCW, I believe.
Ty Dillinger.
Yeah, Ty Dillinger, same thing. Perfect 10. To me, it's a waste of a gimmick because I'm like, I don't think he pulls it off right. Like, if I was to be a professional wrestler right now, I would love for them to tell me, like, this is going to be a gimmick, the perfect 10. I'd be studying The Rock and everybody else that's arrogant in the book because I'm like, man, I would love to try to make that work. Yeah. Because I would try to come off like I was better. And it's so easy. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying, like, oh, that's something to really work with. The perfect 10. It's like, oh man, that's genius.
He's not even arrogant.
He does not. It's not convincing to me. Mm-hmm. He doesn't carry himself that way. Now, if they had given that gimmick to
EC3.
EC3 is another one. Like, I will believe him. They said, oh yeah, I'm the perfect 10. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that makes sense. You look like it. You carry yourself like you're the perfect 10. Yeah. Even a guy I don't remember his name. Montez something. He's the Bianca Belair. Montez Ford, her husband. Part of Street Profits. If he came in like he said, "Oh, I'm the perfect 10," it would be believable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The perfect 10 with the EST.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like we just talked about Mia Yim. She's known as the blazing baddie. That's who she is now.
Yeah.
So you know who the heck is? There was a we asked the same question about her years ago. You've known her for years. Yeah. I've known her through you and Blizz and everybody else. And it was like, and I said the same thing to you back then. That I said, yo, who is she? I said, what is she doing? I said, what is she? Is she using her Korean heritage? Is she, what was her thing? Right. What made her? They say, no, we gotta have her. We don't have this on our roster already. We don't have someone to fill this area of this product. And now she's traveled the world. She found herself.
Yeah,
the Blazing Baddie, and it was easy. So when the fans have seen her for years, and it's like the fans always knew who she was, but you got to convince the officials why she should be here, and she did it.
Yeah. So
you look at NXT overall, what they do, their development, and the guys that performed that takeover, phenomenal show. I was never not a bad match on the show, but I'm constantly looking at who's going to be the guy to carry the banner on the main roster, and now I got to look at it different because I'm like, well, what's really going to work on the main roster? Because everything we like, Vince doesn't like.
Yeah.
For instance, Bobby Roode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, folks, what's going to work on the main roster? Make sure you tweet us at Wrestling Wrealm. Make sure you tweet him at Dwayne Allen 24. Me at Bryan H. Waters. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I got a final thought, and I'm throwing you a curveball, and I purposely waited till you did the outro to say this. By the time people hear this, we're seeing promos of Lars Sullivan. To the main roster potentially.
Right.
Why does he work instead of Velveteen Dream? Now you tell me why.
He's a big guy, and you can put him anywhere. Oh shoot, I can't even call the guy's name. Vladimir Kozlov.
He's a monster.
Yeah.
Flat out, he's a monster.
Now Vladimir, for whatever reason, it didn't work. But let's not forget. Let's not act like this guy wasn't in matches with Triple H. Like they was trying to get him going. It just, I guess for him, it didn't come together.
Lars Sullivan was never a big deal in NXT. Never a major player.
But that might be helpful because look at a guy like Elias.
Those guys weren't meant for NXT. Triple H said it himself. They talk about EC3. I don't know who said it. I don't remember who it was. Might have been Bruce Pritchard. But he said, look, I think EC3 would do better in the main roster than he will on NXT because NXT is about the in-ring product and that hardcore audience. But the EC3's gimmick works a lot better on the main roster. Can you imagine EC3 and The Miz actually dealing with each other? Like those, what if they created an alliance?
That'd be too much. Well, folks, until the next time, so long, everybody.